said, be brave, my son, I'll be home soon. The boy held on to hope till he got that awful news. And as they folded up the stars and stripes, 21 guns pointed towards the sky. As the shots rang out, he flinched a little each time. Then a soldier in his best dress walked up to him, and you know the rest.
This show is brought to you by Operation Encore. Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit that is helping change the lives of our veteran community. Let me tell you a little bit about what they do. They are helping veterans get into the music industry. They're helping them learn the business, get songs recorded, and not only that, making dreams happen. You know, most of these veterans have got the idea of becoming a musician way before they went into the military. And Operation Encore is filling that gap from while they served in the military and helping them change their lives and live out those dreams. Operation Encore is a nonprofit. You can go to this link right there and click on it. Give them a little help. Hit that donate button. Follow them. Learn about all the great things that Operation Encore does for our veterans. Hey, welcome everybody to Spirits and Stories. This is your host, Donald Dunn. So everybody knows, man, I love dealing with the music side. It was our original program from our nonprofit, you know, with our radio station and everything else. And I got the opportunity to have a guest on, Mr. Ben OConnor. He is a recording music artist out of Jersey. He is also extremely patriotic. And his new song just released. It's on Spotify. You can check it out. We'll post the links and everything right here at the bottom. So tune in, enjoy, and let's bring on Mr. Ben OConnor. How's it going, brother?
What's up, Donald? Good to be here. Thanks for taking some time.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. I'm glad you guys came on because you're doing an amazing thing, and we'll get these links rolling. So let's back up a little bit. Let's find out a little bit about Mr. Ben OConnor. Where did the music come from?
Well, first off, I think music started back when I was a little kid. We didn't have a computer in the house. We didn't have a way to look up lyrics or play anything instant. You had to have the CD, and kind of at the changeover. When I was growing up, we had the changeover of like the cassettes, the tape cassettes into the CDs. And so I remember my parents, you remember, right?
Yep.
And I thought it was a downgrade, to be honest. I mean, the tape decks, it was cool and everything, but the CDs would scratch all the time so easily that you would ruin it. But I remember having a CD of a Brad Paisley album. This was the very first memory I have of music. And my parents had this boom box, you could call it, this big stereo system, old style, just massive, huge thing, and sounded great. And I remember putting that CD in, and the song "Mud on the Tires," it just clicked, did something in my head as a little kid, and I just loved it. I got some big news. The bank finally came through, and I'm like, wow, there's ringing of this beautiful song hit me. And I just remember sitting on the floor in front of the boombox, and I'm sitting there and I'm writing the lyrics of the song because I couldn't look it up. I didn't know all the words. I just wanted to sing along. So I sat in front of this stereo and wrote the words. And then, of course, I couldn't write as fast as the lyrics, so I had to keep hitting back. And must have took an hour. But that was kind of my first memory of music, and just really fond, good memory sitting on the floor of my family's living room. And I think that was the very first spark that I had for, wow, this is really cool. What is this?
I'm gonna tell you, man, you just brought back some memories because I remember the days of when you had your favorite song on the radio, and so you'd put a blank tape in and you hit play and record at the same time. So
yeah.
And I'm a little bit older than you, so I actually do remember when I got old enough to start going to music stores and buying music. And the first album I bought was Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it was on was a record. It wasn't even cassette tape. All I had was a little record player. But yeah, after that, man, I was hooked, man. I all the way up through the CD era. I was going to the music store and buying CDs. And I don't even know that they got those anymore. I don't even think Walmart sells CDs anymore.
But
But
isn't that a moment though for like everybody? I think everybody, for the most part, has a memory of their first chapter with music, their first
yeah,
door opening of, whoa, what the heck is this? It's a whole
yeah,
dimension of new feelings. And I don't know. I'm actually curious now. I want to ask more people, what was the first song you ever heard? What was the first time? What was
yeah,
that like?
yeah. I was, when as far back as I can remember, man, I was a Fat Boys and Run DMC and
Hmm.
let's see. I remember in high school, man, I had some 6x9s in the back window of my T-Bird, and I would be bouncing around the road to "Baby Got Back." I mean, that's what I grew up with. Back before Ice-T was a cop. You know, now back when he was the OG on the other side, I was listening to his stuff. But yeah, man, I enjoyed it, man. And I had a great time. And my family, my mom and my dad was the exact opposite. They were extremely old country, you know.
Okay. Mm.
And so after I grew up and kind of matured, man, I kind of met in the middle, and I'm kind of more of like a Nickelback type rock.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, absolutely, man. I love music, and I remember those old days. And so one of the projects with our nonprofit, I had to do it on our Roku channel. We've got a section called MMTV. It's military music television, and it's old school, just like MTV, except it's all music videos from veteran artists. So
Mm.
and I
Very
and I
cool.
love it because I miss those days, man. I miss those days where you could go to MTV and it was music video after music video after music video, and
Hmm.
all that's gone now, man. But now I'm probably so old I'd be
Yeah.
yelling, "Turn it down," but that's all right.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dig into a little bit of your past too, man. You've done a lot of things from wrestling to baseball to fishing. So it seemed kind of like in your bio, the first thing that I noticed was after the fishing stage was when you said, "I'm going to do music." What
Mm.
was that deciding factor? Where was that said, "You know what? I'm done working for the man. I'm tired of him keeping me down. I'm going to jam." Where where did that come from?
I think it came from, I definitely haven't tried everything, but I've tried so many different jobs that I think I
Mhm.
did like a trial and error type thing. And I just
Yes.
spent so many years right out of high school. I didn't go to college, so right out of high school, I just went to work and tried a bunch of different things, from
Yeah.
construction to landscaping to running my own businesses. Um, and I think I found like everything from hospitality to selling Chevrolets. I mean,
Yes.
I've tried so many things, and I felt like when I got to the fishing stage, I knew I loved being on the water,
Mhm.
but I got to the point where I was like, I think I've tried enough to realize I hate everything. I just can't stand everything, and the only thing that makes me really feel alive and really, I don't know, makes me enjoy what I do is music. It's the one time
Yeah.
I'm feeling truly alive. Um, so I think it was like, the end of that season, I'm like, this is it. I'm miserable doing everything when I'm not doing music. So yeah, I think that was, I want to say 2015, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 2015. Um, and yeah, the fishing season ended, and I'm just like, you know what? Let's just go all in. I mean, you can do this where you're working a full time job,
Mhm.
but honestly, a dream is best served diving in the deep end and going for it.
I
So,
completely agree. I do. And
mm,
and I'm a firm believer also that once you find your path, right? The the Lord's going to keep you driving until he puts you back on that path because as we grow up, we all wander and do the things that we're going to do. But once you get on the path that you were meant to do, you find that inner peace.
mm,
And I was going through your bio, and you could tell that because you was succeeding at working for GM. I mean, you were doing amazing things. You broke some records as far as the most sales and stuff that happened. You know,
there was a car that came out. It was a Buick Verano. I don't mean to interrupt. This is a funny, quick story. This car comes out, and I'm like, man, they put a lease program on this car, and it was like, I think it was like $150 a month. I'm like, people pay more for their subscriptions for Netflix and Amazon and all these little TV things. I'm like, you
Yeah.
can have a car for less than your subscriptions. And I just remember getting on the phone and calling everybody. I'm like, I'm not just trying to be a sales guy here, but I'm like, I actually want to hook my friends up, but this is actually a killer deal. So I just remember calling, and my brother bought one, my mom got one, my couple of my friends were like, sign me up. So I just remember, like, it was fun. It was just 80, 90, sometimes 100-hour work weeks. It was just
Yeah.
chaos. So got out of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was that. That's all.
But yeah, I mean, you seen that success. You could have been like, I'm waiting for the next deal. I'm going to do it again. But you still end up traveling to the path that you're on now. And now you've got your own music group. You got a manager. I mean, your wife's active in it. You're touring. I mean, man, you're there, brother.
It's America. It's
Yeah,
just proof that anybody that says that dream is dead is not living it themselves, because it's alive. It's
yeah.
definitely and and we'll get into this more, but it's just what we talk about with our music is it's alive and well, and it's alive and well because of so many that have served. So it's like the best way to honor those who have served is to find what you're put here to do and just go after it. Just go after it. So
Yep, and that's kind of where I felt with my path, man. I retired out of the military in 2014. I tried my own business thing. Um, I had same issues that a lot of other veterans had, and now that I am trying to build this nonprofit and working with media to get veterans on the right path, I wanted something where we celebrated the wins, man. There's so many veterans that put their dreams on hold to become a soldier or an airman, a navyman, whatever. And when they get out of the military, whenever that is, they lose that time that everybody else was grinding and gigging and everything else working towards their goals. So when they come back out, it's twice as hard now. And so I did something to kind of help them with our radio station that we created and our nonprofit that we're building. And it's helping podcasters, it's helping musicians, it's helping authors. But the biggest key to that, man, is the fact that they get to express themselves. They get to, that song that you heard at the intro, right, is one of my favorite songs because it reaches me. It's from Joe Allen Christie. It's called "Keep the Flag." I've never heard a song that represents the military ceremonial process of a funeral better than that song. And so that's why I play it. And I keep telling him all the time, somebody's going to hear that, and it's going to be on the radio. Other than my radio, it's going to be on a actual radio. And he doesn't, he's just real humble, but it's an amazing song. And
I'd
so
love to hear it. I don't think I've heard it.
yeah, absolutely, man.
Love to hear that.
I'll send you the link to it for on his Spotify. But yeah, and at the end of the day, man, it's music that comes from the heart. And you get people that haven't served, you get first responders that are passionate about it. Where did your time for patriotism come from? Was it something instilled? Did you have a family member serve, or was it something instilled as a youngin'? Or
I think our parents have always, my mom and dad were always just good Americans. They went to work, they're hardworking people. They always instilled in us just principled values of being there for each other, and family comes first, and chase after your dreams, and all the values that we kind of learned of be honest and be kind to your neighbors, and all these things are just American values. So not just unique to us, but I think what was unique to us is that they really amplified that message to us, really instilled us to become part of a team, be better, and love your country. I mean, they definitely always had an American flag out. It was always definitely a relevant thing. My parents or immediate relatives were not in the military, but my great uncle, which is my mom's uncle, was in World War II. Alfred Gilmet is his name, and he stormed the beaches of Normandy, fought the Battle of Bulge, and just the epitome of the American soldier, the American hero. And I just I got the honor of meeting him. He came back home, went to work, hugged his wife, and said, "I don't want any sons." Spent the rest of his life working as a lineman for electrical company. Not a lineman for the football teams. People mix that up. He was tough and he was good and all that, but he wasn't that big.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he shared some stories with us. My younger brother Zach and I and my mom remember being in their house one night, and he's sharing some stories. Really soft-spoken guy. No one in the family, or the extended family for that matter, knew the extent of his stories and what he had gone through and his loss and his experience. And he opened up. I mean, I was only a little kid at the time, but as I got older, I felt the weight of that, knowing that he didn't even share this stuff with his own daughters, with his own family.
Yep.
And so just me and my younger brother and my mom having these stories, it's like, I don't have a huge following, but I do have an amplifier. I do have a microphone, and I'd love to bring those stories that he told me out into this world now,
Yeah.
to share that message. And that's what Nation That I Know, I think, holds, is stories from, we call him Uncle Tuffy. Stories from Uncle Tuffy and so many veterans like yourself. When we go on the road and we talk to people and we find out what they've gone through or how they've overcome their struggles, so many of those words, those stories are in this song. So yeah, I think back to your main question of where this all came from, just having good parents.
Yeah.
I think having good parents, instilling good values, celebrating America, having a banging 4th of July party every year. That's always a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, after 9/11, Toby Keith came out with a song,
He did.
courtesy the red, white, and blue. And
Yep.
I remember that was the first time collectively me and my brothers could be in the Suburban coming home from church. We could all say a swear word at the same time and not get in trouble. And at the end of that song where he says, "We'll put a boot in your ass," it's the
Yep.
America way. And I just remember, I'm like, what a fond memory. We'd all like turn it up at that point and scream it. I think just little things like that sort of added up. And then I've always had a kind of a pull to our veterans, those who serve. And I think really what made it very personal is those stories, those couple of times hearing stories from our Uncle Tuffy. So
I'm going to tell you, man, and I think most people in the veteran community would agree with me. World War II was multiple things. It was men of men. I mean, these were real men that did what they did. It was also the last war that we fought for a cause. There was a real reason for that war. And since then, there has not been. Vietnam, Korea, our war that we just spent 20 years in. All these are political wars. And if you watch the beginning of Band of Brothers, there's a interview in one of the episodes. I can't remember which number it is, but the guy said something to me that really hit me. They asked him how come he doesn't have PTSD, or did you have PTSD? And he said, anybody that fought in this war did not have PTSD. He said, yeah, we came home, we had some bad dreams, but they went away. And they said, well, how come the veterans of today have so much PTSD? And he said, because we fought for a real reason. There hasn't been a reason since then. The whole country was behind us. If you were not fighting, you were building something so we could fight. And it was amazing, man. I thought about that. And I was like, I don't know how much he's accurate as far as the reason for the PTSD, but he is accurate about the fact that that was the last war. So I have a lot of respect for anybody that fought in World War I, World War II, because those were very, very tough, grueling wars, as well as Vietnam. The difference is it was also a political war. And again, much harder than our war. Vietnam was a very, very tough war. So I have kind of gotten to the point where I have separated myself from government versus veterans. I love all the veterans in the community. I do anything I can do to help any of them. And the reason for that is because I don't feel that we get a choice. We don't get a choice why we're fighting. We get told why we're fighting. And so, back then, to see the country behind you, you could tell what's right or wrong when you look at the people. Look at what happened to the Vietnam veterans when they came back. They were spit on, and everybody's like, well, why do the veterans of today talk so much about the situation and Vietnam didn't? Well, they didn't have a country to listen. They were told they're baby killers and everything else. We had a country that supported us, so it makes it easier to talk about. I wouldn't talk about it either if every time I said something I got spit on. So to hear people singing songs about what we do and the fact that our country is behind us, I love that. It's so important because in the past it's something that we have forgot. And I don't ever want to see us get to that point again. And you can see it after 9/11, we were so united. And you look at where we're at today, that has dwindled down. And so to hear songs like yourself, to hear songs, I got to listen to Toby Keith in Afghanistan. I guarantee you he didn't make any money because the USO doesn't pay shit, but he still came. And him, Kid Rock, they're very, very patriotic. So my hat's off to you, man, for the songs that you sing and the people that you reach, because it's extremely important to make sure that our kids and our youth are growing up and understanding what real patriotism is. You don't have to support a government to support the guys that are fighting for you. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the idea that you would say love America, it means you love everything under the sun about what may have been done under that flag. And I think maybe it's just my opinion, but I do think this is pretty common with a lot of people on both sides of the political aisle, Democrat or Republican, is that love for America is really love for an idea rather than the dirt. It's a love for the concept that we're all equal. It's a love for the concept that we're all free. We all have the opportunity. We all are in this together. We all should help each other out. It's this community. It's this idea. It's not less than it is of a government or any specific entity. And celebrating patriotism is celebrating that idea that we're all part of. That millions and millions of people around the world try to get to every single year. And in extension to that, the celebration of the people, including yourself, that have made this life possible. Regardless of the wars each veteran has been in, they signed up, they put a flag on their sleeve, and they said, I want to serve my country. And you don't exactly get to make a choice as a soldier which war you get entered into. So I hear you, and I definitely think that there's a lot of merit to that with the wars of purpose and all these other things. And I just think that when people look at the causes or the reasons for wars, that should never extend down to the soldiers.
I agree.
In the sense of Vietnam and everything from Afghanistan to any foreign war that's under that umbrella of a political war.
Yeah.
The blame should be on our congressmen, our senators, our representatives. That's where the finger pointing should be. Not on the people that signed up who was like, hey, I'm going to leave my family behind for a year while I go into a desert with 110-degree heat, wearing 80 pounds on my back. Like, that's not you don't go out looking for that. That's not something that you would do by choice. So
you're right.
Your choice was to put the flag on. And me as a singer who gets to travel this country and can follow the climates of where it gets warmer and not be in the cold, or follow this dream that we get to do. I mean, it's so easy compared to anything most of our veterans have gone through. It's just, if not all, it's just, there's no reason for complaint. And I think what happens too is there's this whole notion that we should all look at our problems and look at what we all go through as our individual problems, and not put that in perspective to say, hey, some kid in Africa doesn't have clean water, or somewhere in South America, or somewhere in the South Side of Chicago, they're not safe, whatever. Don't do that, because your problems are important. You should really, but here's the thing with that. I think by doing that, you lose the perspective. You lose that perspective of, well, you know what? You're part of less than 1% of the globe that gets to live within these borders.
Yeah.
Like the perspective is so important. And while your problems might be real, whether you're a veteran or a business owner or someone dealing with a heartbreak, whatever your issue is, it
Yep.
is real. It definitely got to be dealt with. But when you put it in perspective and you think, well, I could be dealing with this right now, or I could be on a boat going across the English Channel, freezing cold, flapping down onto the beach with this boat with Nazi soldiers shooting at me and killing all my best
Yeah.
friends that I just served with. Now I got to storm up and spend the next several years in this foreign country away from everybody I love. It's definitely, I think, important, at least for my life. I don't want to
Yeah.
speak for anybody else, to say to myself constantly in times of struggle or hardship, to be like, you could be on that boat right now,
Yeah.
and or you could be in that Revolutionary War or that Civil War, or you look back to what this country's gone through, and right now, despite all the conflicts we might have, we got it really, really good, really, really good.
I completely agree, man. And I honestly do believe we're just in a cycle. I've
Mm.
always said that tough men make easy times. Easy times makes hard men, and that cycle just continues around and around. And if you go back in our time, you'll see that things got better, people got weaker. Then something happened, people had to toughen up. We're nothing now compared to the Great Depression. You go back to those people, man. They knew what it was to work.
Right.
Well, I want to dig in a little bit to your new single, "Nation That I Know," and it doesn't matter whether you're veteran, not veteran. Writing songs is tough, man. And every time I interview somebody, I get one of two things: either that song came out in 15 minutes, you had an oha yaha idea, or you struggled on it and it took forever to get wrote. Where did that song come from?
This song was, I mean, if you have an Apple iPhone, it was airdropped. If you have something else, it was Bluetooth. It was like somewhere else. It came from somewhere else. That's how it feels. Um, it came together very quickly. I don't know exactly how long. I don't know how fast it got completed. Um, but I do know that the words as they came out, I remember writing them down and just feeling like, where are these words coming from?
Yeah.
And again, I think that comes from those really deep conversations and stories that we hear from veterans, and just different, all walks of life, and seeing the backgrounds of different people and hearing so many commonalities of stories from veterans and
Yeah.
perspectives from veterans. um, it made it easy to put this song together. It was just automatic. So yeah, I think it fell on the quicker side.
Yeah. It's always one of two things, man. It's never. I apologize, man. My dogs have been going crazy today.
That's
But
all right. I got one over here. She's running around. So if you see me looking off, it's to make sure she's not going too far.
all right. But yeah, it's always one of two things. There's never a middle, like, well, it was kind of average. You never hear that. It was,
Hmm.
I woke up in the middle of the night, had an idea, and I couldn't stop writing.
Yep.
Or I started this and man, I struggled and I ran into, and I had to talk to so and so. And, so I always love hearing those stories because you have to understand where the song came from to understand where that person went to.
Hmm.
And you even look at somebody like Jelly Roll. He may not have wrote some of his songs, but they are songs about him and the things that
Hmm.
he went through. And so I think it's important. I think it's important that everybody tells their story because it doesn't matter what you did. We all have that. We have a story. But I think it's also extremely important that we're documenting our war right now, and that's the main reason why I created everything that we created, because I want all the soldiers out there to document what happened to them. I don't know, and nobody else knows what they're going to teach in the history books 40 years from now.
Hmm.
It could be the right stuff, it could be the wrong stuff. But at the end of the day, as long as it's on the internet or as long as it's on the radio waves, people can find things and hear things from people that have been there.
Hmm.
And that is extended to people that haven't been there but are working and talking with veterans every day, like yourself, because you hear those stories, just like you said, they're impacting you and they're impacting the songs that are coming out. So again, I think you're doing the same work that I'm doing. You're documenting the way people feel. And with 9/11, man, there was such a united across the front. You know, for the first time in a long time, people knew their neighbors' names,
Mhm.
and it was amazing. And one day we'll be back there, but at the end of the day, you are continuing that on right now, singing songs like "Nation That I Know." So I appreciate what you're doing, man. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Yeah.
and I know you're also in you're either in Vegas or you're heading to Vegas. Which is it right now?
We are in Arizona right now. And
Arizona.
I just wanted to say too that we are originally from New England. So I think you had mentioned Jersey in the beginning, and so all my Red Sox fans would be so upset if they say, "What do you mean? He said you're from Jersey." So I got to just say that we're from about an hour south of Boston.
Okay.
But Donald, where are you from?
So originally I am from Nebraska. I retired out of Georgia, and I am currently living in Missouri taking care of my mom. So my wife and kids are still in Georgia, and I'm here in Missouri. But I actually, when I got out, I owned a trucking company, so I delivered to a town quite frequently, way more frequently than I wanted to go, called Quincy, and delivered some sort of polymer. I was a bulk chemical company that I was pulling trailers for. But
Mhm.
man, y'all up there live completely different. I am not gonna lie. Does nobody have driveways up there? Because everybody parks on the side of the street.
Quincy, Massachusetts, right? Is that what you're talking?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love where I'm from. I do love where I was born and raised, Newport, Rhode Island, Middletown, Rhode Island, little place south of Boston by the
Mhm.
sea, a lot of sailboats. But I will say, since moving mostly to the southern states, we spent a lot of time in Texas, spent a lot of time in Florida. We have fallen in love with the southern way of life.
Yeah,
We've fallen in love with the western way of life. And not to say that we still don't love our hometown, we do. But I think the Northeast is stuck in a much faster cycle of life. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
just it's part of it, you know. And I think to come home and be in a place now in Arizona where you can see behind me, you got trees around you. You get that in Rhode Island and Mass for sure. But I mean, you drive out the driveway and you just see dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of miles in all directions, and I think
Yeah,
it does something to you when your eyes start to see, whether it be the ocean or big landscapes. Um, it slows you down. It
yeah,
humbles you a little bit. Like
yeah.
you're this big. Don't take life too serious. Enjoy it. You're only going to be
Yep.
here a short time. So I think that's what I'm really loving about these western states, the
Yeah.
Arizona, the Utah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My wife wouldn't even talk to me when she found out I was either going to New Jersey or Quincy. You know, we went to Rahway, New Jersey, quite a bit, and
Hmm.
man, I hated it. I
Yeah.
you know how many times I would be cussing because I'm like, I can't make this damn turn because somebody's parked right here,
Well,
and I'm
how big of a truck? How big
it
of a
was,
truck did you have?
I had there were 48-foot bulk chemical trailers, so it's a tank, 48
Wow.
foot, and I had 265-inch wheelbase, long nose Peterbilt.
Oh
So
my
going
gosh.
through Quincy to get to this,
Oh,
I can't remember the name of the company, man.
I don't want to take that car through Quincy, so I don't know how you made it.
You have to knock on doors and be like, "Do you own that car? Do you own that
Yeah.
car? You know, can you move the damn car?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, that whole part of the country too. What I love about Boston, what I love about Newport, where I'm from, is the history and the depth of what happened in those founding colonies,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
I mean, the roads were not built for the cars. They're not built for I mean, they're built for horses and carriages. They're not built for it. So it's so cool to see how over time, I will say the Newport, Rhode Island is probably among the best in the whole country in all of our travels at preserving the history that took place there
mhm,
during the American Revolution when Rochambeau and the French army came our Navy, I should say, came to our shores to help with Washington's advance, eventually leading to Yorktown. If it wasn't for the landing of Rochambeau and Newport, Rhode Island, Yorktown and the victory with Washington against Cornwallis would have never happened.
Yeah.
And there's many events that we could say that would have caused it not to go the way it did. But when you look at places that huge things took place in, huge historical happenings, man, it is really up to all of us to go to our council members, go to our city halls and make sure that these parks, these buildings, these places don't get just paved over, because that goes back to what you were just saying, is making sure the next generation is informed, is enthusiastic about our history, where we come from. So yeah, preserving is a huge, huge part of that. I think if we get rid of our old buildings, our old statues, our old, whether they're good or bad, we need to keep a presence to remember, so that we don't do the same nonsense all over again.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't care where you hear everybody talk about different areas and so forth, but I don't care where you come from. There's a bit of toughness from each area. You go out west. I know as a truck driver, man, I'd go out west hauling one tank with bulk chemicals, getting passed by a guy pulling 3 oil tanks. And I'm like, there's no way in hell I do that, you know? And so there is a different toughness, man. And there's a toughness up north, just like anywhere else. The fishing that happens up there, that's shit's not easy. It gets cold up there.
Yeah.
And those people are out there making a living. So, you know, everywhere you go, that's the thing that made America, man, is that grit. And that's the one thing, no matter where you're at, we all have it. Maybe in one way or the other, but we all do have it. The other song I wanted to talk about is a song called Liberty. Where did this song come from?
Hot button topic. This song came from halfway through the pandemic, and reflecting on what makes this country what it is. Sitting in quarantine in the state that I was in was Rhode Island, and being told that music is not allowed right now. And in the beginning, that's perfectly understood. But when it got extended to 2 years, 2.5 years, and you go 2 states over and you can do whatever you want, and you come back to this state and now you can't do anything. So it came from reflecting on a lot of the decisions that were made throughout the country over the last 4 years or so. And then kind of digging into what our government really is supposed to do, what makes America different. And I think what makes this place the most different, because a lot of people will say, well, France is free and Germany today is free and the UK is free and Australia is free. So what makes America so special? And I think what people forget is that we're not a quote unquote democracy. That's not what this is. We're a constitutional republic, and a constitutional republic approaches governing in a way that balances equally the populace, everybody, so to say, and the individual. So in a democracy, you're more often to weigh towards the side of the general population to say, this is what's best for everybody, so we must do all of this. Where in America, what makes us very, very different from the rest of the world is that constitutional republic definition, which is your individual liberties must be weighed equally with the general population. It cannot be one side or the other. And I think what happened during COVID, not to get too political, was that we forgot that. We forgot to say, you know, we have to not just mandate, lock people up, do all these crazy things, but we have to keep our heads in a place where what's best for the individual, what's best for the general population. We need to find a solution in between. We need to get our houses of Congress in order. We need to get our local Senate and our local House of Representatives in order, so that if we're going to mandate anything, it must be done through the proper channels. And we lost sight of that. At least in the state of Rhode Island, my home state, big time. And it caused me to move. It caused me to have to leave, because it got to the point where I was no longer allowed to do what I do to make money,
Yeah.
to survive. So I had to move, and it was beyond the point. Now we're talking 2.5 years in after 2020. It got to the point where you could now do this in many Democrat states. This wasn't just Republican or Democrat. There was many Democrat states where I could simply move to. Like Colorado was one where they had some common sense laws, but opened things up, allowed business to start. So I think liberty really comes from this idea that we cannot ever lose sight of that one thing that makes us different
Yeah.
than everywhere else. Is you and I have a God-given right of liberty, and that's recognized in this country more so than anywhere else. And that's not to say, well, hey, if there's a horrible outbreak of something, you can just go and spit on everybody's faces and do whatever you need to. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a common sense approach, using government like it should be, not just signing executive orders, but using government, taking votes on things, and doing it the proper way, and weighing our individual liberty with the common good. So that's where that song came from. I think it came from that frustration, that very, very scary, questionable time of which way is this country going to go right now?
Yeah.
And then reflecting back on so many people that put their lives on the line to give us what we have. So
yeah. I don't know if you realize it or not, but you just sent a bunch of 19-year-olds to the medicine cabinet because you just blew their mind. So they're all reaching for ibuprofen right now.
I hope I didn't rant too long, but
No,
man, it's difficult because I do find that I was reflecting and saying, I'm going to have to completely stop music. I'm going to have to give this up. I'm going to have to go work another job for I don't know how long. And that might have been the reality. If it got to the point where it was so bad, like a Great Depression scenario or a scenario where that was needed, no problem. We'll do it. We'll figure it out. But this was a synthetic approach. This was a government overreaching its power, a government overreacting and not following proper science. And we know that now. And all the while, certain states were doing what they were doing. And you could follow other states, not just Florida, Texas, not just them, but a lot of independent and leaning Democrat states, including Pennsylvania, Maryland. They were a little too strong, but even they relaxed before Rhode Island. So it's definitely, I think, it's very telling where we're at right now in this country, showing us what's happening and what type of elected officials we're living with. So I think it's definitely important that we don't forget that when elections come up, and the answer isn't just red or blue. The answer is to see how these people handled, what were they voting for? In Rhode Island, we actually had Congress members in Rhode Island that were voting to fine and double tax people if they did not get 2 vaccination shots. And it's like, now you're financially burdening individuals that may not want it for a multitude of reasons. And those Congress people violated. And Rhode Island is the founding state when it comes to individual liberty. It's the religious freedom state. It's Roger Williams. I mean, anybody who understands Rhode Island, it's the first Jewish synagogue. It's the first Baptist church. It's founded on individual liberty more so than any other colony at the time. And Rhode Island went belly up on that whole idea. So I think it's not just a Republican or Democrat. There were a lot of good Democrats at the helm as well in their states. But I think we need to take a hard look come November and remember what happened. And that's I think that's, without ranting any longer, I think that's the purpose for liberty, to make us realize that this is very special. It's like a glass ball that we're holding, and that glass ball is called liberty, and we better not drop it because it goes quick.
I'm gonna tell you, man, easy times also makes weak leaders. And we had a good run for a while, and now we're living with what people grew up with, easy times, and they're being forced to have to make hard decisions because we're turning into hard times. And where I adopted this thought process, I didn't create the acronym. Somebody else did, but I listened to a episode from the Sean Ryan show. He had a Marine sniper on there that was at Abbey Gate when we pulled out of Afghanistan.
Mm.
and he got hit with 150 ball bearings. He's missing, and I may have it backwards, but I'm pretty sure it's his left arm and right leg. And I knew it was bad, man, but I did not know to what extent. And in his statement on the podcast, and he'll be testifying at Congress when that hearing comes about, but he said that they knew 2 to 3 days ahead of time what the bomber looked like, what the bomber's handler looked like, and he identified the bomber. And he radioed over to the British. There was a British group right next to their gate, and they identified the bomber. He then called the battalion commander down there, and he identified the bomber. And then when he asked permission to fire, the battalion commander said, "I can't give that to you." And he said, "Who can?" He said, "I don't know." And it wasn't 24 hours later that the bomb went off and killed 13 soldiers. And that's why I say we're living in a world of weak leadership. You know, everybody's afraid to make the wrong decision, so they're not making any decision. And that's the worst thing that can happen. So I do believe that acronym's got a lot of truth to it. I don't know where America goes. I mean, you'd have to have a crystal ball, but I do have faith that the people, with as much grit as we have, it'll come back. You know, we just need some hard times to build some hard men. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, and I don't want to believe that it's going to take tragedy like we've seen in the past to bring people together. I don't believe that. I think we are actually in a time where a generation that's coming up are thinking to themselves, this is madness, that we only have two choices when we have to vote for our president, that we have two sides or two teams to pick from. I mean, we're supposed to be one team, and we should be objectively like debating each other. When you see a presidential debate, it's almost like a roast. It's less of a debate and it's more like a roast. It is wildly cinematic. It's wildly entertaining. It's better than any TV show could script. And so why would they change that? It sells. Everybody wants to tune in and watch the debate. It's funny. You know, it's actually funny.
It is.
So, but I think the generation that's coming up is looking at this whole thing that we're in, and I think we're all starting to self-reflect. We're looking at the mirror now. We've got some downtime, right? There's no crazy war that America is in with boots on the ground currently. Right. And I think because of that, we have a lot of people thinking like, what are we doing? Where's the ship heading? What are we doing here?
Yep.
And I think despite all these news headlines and all these things that are happening, I really do believe at the municipal levels and each town, I think everything from school districting to who's on the boards on certain things, I think it's trending in the right direction. I think people are tired of the team thing. I think we all want this instant fix. I mean, we're on the Instagram Reels and TikTok, so we're used to this quick instant gratification. But I think what's happening is the change is happening, but it's from the bottom up. I think it's happening at the local level, at the town levels. I do believe it's in the right direction. I definitely believe it's in the right direction. I think both sides bring a lot of good. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm mostly independent on a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of friends. I've got friends far left, far right, and family on the left and family on the right. And I just openly converse with these people. I just want to know what they're believing. I don't need to tell you my beliefs. I just want to know why you believe what you believe. And it is fascinating when you do that and you start asking people. They're basically believing in the exact same thing. Both sides, they actually believe in the same thing. The merits are almost the same. It's just a little, it's just that there's like a little deviation, but in a proper discourse, when you remove ego and these two people can just sit down with no cameras and they just talk about it. Yeah. Man, talk about magic. Yeah. I mean, you remove the theatrical side of it and just let people talk and let them get their ideas out and put them under scrutiny. Let bad ideas be shown and let good ideas be shown, but don't censor. Don't stop anybody from saying what they need to say. I really do believe, and I don't just think I'm head in the sand on this, but from the conversations that I've had, I think we are definitely in the right direction with a lot of things. But if you're watching the news every night, if you're on and you're checking out memes and you're looking at all the Armageddon stuff, you'll think I'm crazy. But
Yeah.
just take your head out of the phone, walk down the street, say hi to somebody at your grocery store, and their political affiliation won't matter to you. And it won't
Yeah.
matter to them. You're just in front, you're talking. So we've got way more in common than we got in different. So I think we're not in a bad place. And I think right now is a perfect opportunity to inject some more patriotism right now. Because in a sense,
Absolutely.
we're idle. Our country's a little idle right now. We're starting to like, what are we doing next?
Yep.
We got a lot of factories and a lot of jobs coming back to America from the Trump administration to the Biden administration. They both want to bring jobs home. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, get our veterans back to work, get our American factory workers that lost everything when jobs left, get those people back to work. Good things are happening. You just got to get out of the phone, get out of the news, and check out the real world. I think it's definitely in the right direction.
You know, I'll be honest. I think 80% of America agrees with you. They take things from both sides, and they agree with this, they agree with that, you know, and they pull from both sides. It's that other 10% that's on the outer skirts. Because I'm going to personally tell you, I have never encountered somebody in person that is doing anything that the news talks about like it's happening every day.
Yeah.
You know, the whole transgender movement and all this other stuff that you hear about in the news every single day. I have never encountered anybody that approaches me hostile, screaming any sort of rights. I've never seen it on the streets. I've never seen it in the schools. I've never seen any of that stuff. Not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's so small that without the media blowing it up, we'd never even talk about it.
Mm.
And so I do believe that 80% of the people believe, I believe the way you believe. You know, there's things I take from both sides. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I don't believe that the Second Amendment needs to be fought at the federal level. This is something that the states can decide what they want to regulate, how they want to regulate. We got bigger problems than to worry about, you know, whether I can have my guns without doing some sort of other background check. Do I want any kind of? No, I mean, I'm a big gun guy. I can't even count how many guns I got. But I also want to know, why are we giving billions of dollars overseas when we got veterans and mothers with children homeless? You know, why are we not taking care of that? Not saying there's not a reason. I'm just saying, you know, my show ain't so big that I can talk to anybody that knows, but I would
Right.
love to have an answer about it.
Mm.
You know, and I think those kind of things are the bigger part of the problem. You know, we need to look at, what is it that we want the federal government to work on. They work for us.
Mm.
You know, there's some things that the states need to handle. COVID was not one of them. That's the reason why we got 52 different laws violating our rights, you know? And then it turned political. Some states took advantage of it. Look how lenient we are. Move to us. Now we got a bunch of money coming in. How many people left California and moved to Austin, Texas? You know? And so there was always agendas, you know? And I don't want to get into the politics and everything, but I do agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I think 80% of America does too. And I do agree that it is better now than it was a year ago. It was definitely better than it was 2 years ago. And so I think we're growing. I do think that we're coming together, you know. So I don't know who that's the reason of, but it is happening. And I think that's
I think
important.
it's, yeah, I think it might be the reason of the leaders of Democrats and leaders of Republicans. That's the reason why we're actually coming together.
Yeah.
It's because we're getting so sick of the two paths. We're like, these guys are crazy. Why are they? I agree with that, but that's a little too far. And I agree with that, but that's a little too far. And then you come down to the ground level, and like you said, 80% of America is just down here looking up and being like, we don't like either of our choices. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so can we fix this somehow? I think we're in the right direction.
I do too. And you see it, like you said, with the congressman. There's people swapping sides back and forth, and there's a lot of Republican ones that Democrats are agreeing with, and there's a lot of Democrat stuff that Republicans are agreeing with. They're just not the ones that are in the spotlight. They're not the Secretary of the State and the spokesman and all these people that you hear the news talking about. But the lower end congressmen and senators, I do agree. They are part of that 80% of America. So
Well, I think sadly too, it doesn't really sell in the media when
it
in
does.
that whole thing. Like if let's say they share the news, let's just say California, for example, passes a bill that's going to provide proper funding to veteran housing to make sure that if a veteran needs a place to stay, needs a place to live and transition when they come home, or if they're going through a rough time, if their house needs work and they don't have enough funding to support it, I think I'm a believer that a veteran should never have to worry about where they live for the rest of their life. Somebody
Me,
that served this country should have a place to live. And so if a bill goes through in California where they're going to allocate $100 billion at the state level to provide housing and home repairs and things like that to our nation's veterans, I don't necessarily know if the national news media would jump on that story because it doesn't sound with like a lot of glitz. Me and you could come up with a way to make that sound amazing. We don't really need to do too much. I think a lot of people would want to hear that.
yeah.
But they want to share the story of a senator arguing some crazy, outlandish thing on the House floor or the
Yep.
Senate floor to just get you and I's blood boiling, the left or the right, whoever. They want to get us upset. So
Yep.
that's what's on the news. When you're watching, they're just in
Absolutely.
the business of getting you upset. So again, turn it off. Don't
Yep.
put head in the sand, but just be in the real world. That's all.
I I agree, brother. So I know we're getting to the top of the hour. I want to dig into a little bit about the nonprofit that reached out to me and told me about you. Uh, uh, UnumAmerica.org, right? How did this partnership is this part of your nonprofit, or did they invite you in and this is a joint partnership with this tour?
So the Unum America is just the title of our tour,
Okay.
and we're pairing this up with Rebuilding Together, which is a national nonprofit with local affiliates in cities across America. Now, Unum stands for, it means one in Latin. So Unum is part of our country's motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one. And so we felt like we wanted to do a tour for our nation's veterans. We wanted to do a tour that brought people together in the midst of this divisive time we're in, for a reason that I think a lot of people could get behind. Something that I've always felt passionate about, something that could get people excited. And like we said, let's not wait for a tragedy to come
Yeah.
together. Let's look into the people that we can pay our respects to, give our thanks to, and let's celebrate them, and let's come together. So Unum
Yeah.
is one, and Rebuilding Together is an amazing organization that essentially does what I believe our government should be doing for all veterans, which is providing safe place to live. So this nonprofit goes out and takes, let's just say, a leaky roof in a veteran's home, and
Hmm.
they go in and they fix it completely free to that veteran. Now,
That's awesome.
they do get government funding, so a lot of local governments in different cities are supporting this mission. And so we're working right now with Las Vegas. That national affiliate has these local locations,
Hmm.
and Las Vegas and Austin are our two first tour stops. What's great about this is that we're not donating to some huge national thing. We're donating to the cities that we visit. So if we're doing a show in Nevada, then Nevada and veterans in Nevada are going to be directly benefited by that show.
That is awesome.
Austin, veterans right in Austin will be directly benefited. So Las Vegas, Bob Cleveland is in charge of that affiliate, and Jesse's in charge of the Austin affiliate, Jesse Porter. These two guys, as soon as we presented them with this tour that we're doing, these shows, they jumped right on and they're like, sign us up. This is amazing. We'd love to help get the word out. So just really, really, really good people. So if any of your listeners are in these two cities, April 12th in Vegas, April 20 in Austin, half our tickets are going to be donated, half of them, to each of those local affiliates. And then every donation that we take in the night of goes 100% to the local affiliate. So
that is awesome. And
it's
I
been a
will
lot of
make
fun.
sure, if anybody forgets or not sure about the website, I will make sure that on my website I post all the tour dates and locations so that everybody knows where they can find it and plan in advance. So, brother, I'm gonna tell you, man, I've had an amazing time. You're a true American, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna bring you forward and give you the opportunity to tell everybody where they can go. I know I've had a few of the websites and your Spotify stuff going down at the bottom, but you know, tell everybody a little bit about where they can find you and where they can purchase some music and be a part of this movement that you're on.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. And the best way to kind of tie into all this is just go to our website, benoconnormusic.com. O'Connor, OCONNOR. A lot of people do the ER, but go to benoconnormusic.com. That'll link you into our tour dates. That'll link you into everything that we're working on. Yeah, I think that's what we're working on right now, is getting those 2 tour stops off the ground. And Donald, thank you for your service. Thanks for serving this country and making dreams like this come to life. So appreciate everything you do, and thanks for taking the time today.
I appreciate it, brother. I do. I'm gonna go ahead and put you in the green room, throw my exit video up. Brother, I appreciate you coming on, man. I had a great time, and I'm looking forward to covering some more of the stuff that you're doing, man. So always keep me informed. You're more than welcome to come back on anytime. Anything you got new that's coming on, you need publicized, let me know. It'll go on the radio, it'll go on our Roku channel, wherever I can help people find people like you.
Amazing. Thank you, Donald. Appreciate it.
No issue, brother. I'll be with you in 1 second. Man, oh man, let me tell y'all something, man. That was an amazing conversation. And it always warms my heart to know that at the end of the day, there's still people out there that are about America, about the veterans, about the people, their neighbors, and it's extremely important that's what we focus on. And remember that we're all here. You know, we're a nation of fighting. We fought to get to where we are, and that's exactly the mentality that we need to have. We're all humans, and we all have different beliefs, but that doesn't mean that we can't get along and have a great time. I want all of y'all to go to Spotify. All right, Ben OConnor. You can also search his new song called Nation That I Know, and you can find it there on Spotify. I have listened to as well. I'll also post the links down at the bottom to make sure that you guys go and check it out and listen, because it is an amazing song. I've listened to it 3 times before the podcast even started. So I absolutely love it, and I know you guys will too. Remember, at the end of the day, don't let the day kick your ass. Kick its ass. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week. Be safe. Love y'all.